2 million properties in Britain are leasehold. It all goes back to the feudal system, a time when few people owned the land on which their house was built. Today, we're the only country in the world that has leasehold properties. They're particularly common in blocks of flats where home ownership means that you only have the right to live there for a fixed number of years. Freeholds can only be worth a fraction of the leasehold, but the freeholder has a disproportionate amount of power, and that leaves the leaseholder in a vulnerable position.
The Holt, a block of 46 flats in Morden, Surrey.
In 1986, Stefan Timkovich paid £38,500 for an 89-year lease on his two-bedroom flat. Over 13 years, he has paid his managing agents, the Freshwater Group, nearly £7,000 in service charges. And this is the flat's state of repair.
In 1994, the managing agents got a surveyor to drop a schedule of works for the external repairs. That schedule of works was charged to the tenants to the tune of around £11,000, and to this day no major works have been carried out on the external parts of the building. It's quite frustrating to pay this money for the maintenance and to each day come back to the building and see the state that it's in.
On the house, brought along independent chartered surveyor Michael Plant to assess the building's condition.
Michael, what do you think of the general state of the flats here?
Very poor. One of the worst I've seen.
So what will this do to the value of these flats?
It's probably reduced the value by between about a third and a half.
Do you think a building society would lend to a potential buyer of one of these flats?
I think it's most unlikely. I carry out valuations for a number of lenders, and I would not recommend a bank or building society to advance money on any of these flats in this condition.
Do you think the freeholders are fulfilling their obligation to the leaseholders here?
They can't be. It's patently obvious from the defects on the balconies, leaks in the roof, that there has been a major breakdown in the fulfilment of those obligations.
We contacted Freshwater. It said the basic service charge does not cover major works. Freshwater says it's carried out significant works during the last few years, and it will be addressing the major works which need to be undertaken. It says it will consult thoroughly with the tenants to seek their agreement on the costs and the choice of contractor.
The problem with freeholders is very little in the law to ensure that they play fair. Property speculators can pick up a freehold for a couple of £100 at auction, and anyone can become a managing agent. So when problems arise, leaseholders just don't have the protection.
This Sydenham house is converted into 4 flats. Oakley Property Management Limited looked after the block. In 1994, it sent the leaseholders a bill for proposed building works of £9,500. Sarah Adey was one of them.
So what have they done here?
They've rendered this wall, but it looks pretty awful.
It looks like they've gone for a stucco effect there, doesn't it?
This paintwork is just so shoddy. It's like that everywhere. Heaven only knows what's going on under there.
They've just painted it here, haven't they? Nothing there.
Yeah.
Shoddy it may be, but Oakley Property Management still took their time.
Although they quoted for the work in 1994, they didn't actually start to do it until 1997. But they started charging us for it in 1995. Although initially it should have been £2,500, I must have ended up paying well over £4,000. And when we wouldn't pay the whole lot, in my case, they got the money out of my building society by saying that I'd broken the terms of my lease, and I knew nothing at all about that. So all of a sudden, I was put on a credit blacklist, so it will be difficult for me to get another mortgage or any other form of credit.
The case went to a leasehold valuation tribunal. Because the leaseholders weren't given proper documentation for the works, the tribunal limited the bill to £1,000. The decision is being appealed, so Sarah is still waiting for her money back.
After years and years of fighting with Oakley, in the end, we just cut our losses and sold. And one of the girls in this property just handed her keys back to the building society and said, "Take it away, I've had enough, I can't do this anymore."
The managing agent for these flats has since changed, but when we contacted Oakley Property Management, it said the freeholder was not willing to commence with the works until it was sure that the leaseholders were ready, able and willing to pay. The freeholder, as entitled by the lease, wishes to secure payments in advance of the major works being undertaken. Oakley added that the freeholder was shocked by the result of the Leasehold Valuation Tribunal and considers it wrong.
So is there anything that you can do to take control of the way your home is being managed? Well, if you can prove to a leasehold valuation tribunal that your block of flats is not being run properly, then you can remove the right of the freeholder to manage it. And if 2/3 of you agree, you can apply to purchase the freehold and manage it yourself, or get in a managing agent.
In Brighton, Shula Rich owns one of the 100 flats in Kingsway Court. 4 years ago, the leaseholders succeeded in buying their freehold.
It's extremely hard work to run a block properly because it's a great responsibility for us. But we do employ professionals, and although it's hard work, we know that we're not being ripped off.
The government is looking at changing the law. Common hold, where everyone has a share of the freehold, or an automatic right to manage the building that you live in. But until the law protects you, make sure that you protect yourself.